Good evening, everyone. It's 5 p.m. on the 23rd of June 2026. I'm Chris Gibbs, the Shire President for the Shire of York, and I'm declaring this ordinary council meeting open at 5 p.m. I'd like to advise the following. The Yorkshire Council acknowledges the Balladong people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional owners of the country where this meeting is being held, and recognise their continuing connection to land, water, sky and culture. We pay our respects to all these people and their elders, past, present and emerging. Now, in accordance with Regulations 14I and 14J of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, notice is given that this meeting is being video and audio recorded to facilitate community participation and for minute-taking purposes. By being present at a meeting, members of the public consent to the possibility that their image and voice may be recorded. Audio recordings are published on the Shire's website following the meeting and may be released upon request to third parties. Members of the public are reminded that in accordance with Section 6.16 of the Shire of York Local Government Council Meetings Local Law 2016, that nobody shall use any visual or vocal recording device or instrument to record the proceedings of council without the written permission of the presiding member. I wish to draw attention to the disclaimer notice contained within the agenda document and advise members of the public that any decisions made at the meeting today can be revoked in accordance with Regulation 10 of the Local Government Administration Regulations of 1996. Therefore, members of the public should not rely on any decisions until formal notification in writing from the Shire has been received. Any plans or documents in agendas and minutes may be subject to copyright, and the express permission of the copyright owner must be obtained before copying any copyright material. No change to standing orders, no announcement of visitors. Councillors, are there any declarations of proximity interest this evening? Just by show of hands, please. And I don't think I have any online. Do I have any proximity interests from administration? I don't. Let's move to financial interests. Thanks, Councillor Tran. I'll get you to read it out when the item comes up. And there's a financial interest. Okay, thank you, administration. If you could both bring those up and read out your documents when the items come up. I don't think there's any online. And I'll move to impartiality interests. Are there any impartialities from council? There doesn't appear to be. Are there any impartialities from administration? There does not appear to be, so we'll move on from there. Emma, is there a way I could see Councillor Hutchinson as well, please? Doesn't matter. That's great, thank you. Just in case Councillor puts her hands up, I'll know what to do. Okay, let's move to attendance, everyone. Councillor Chris Gibbs is here. I'm the Shire President. Councillor Denise Smythe is here. She's the Deputy Shire President. We've also got Councillor Elaine Ashford. Councillor Monique Hutchinson is via electronic means. Councillor Kevin Pike is also via electronic means on your screens. Councillor Kevin Trent is here. Councillor Melissa Welsh is here. For staff, I have Alina Behan announcing for the first time as the Chief Executive Officer. Congratulations, Alina Behan. Annika Burleson is here as the Acting Executive Manager for Corporate and Community Service. We also have Thomas Bruins, Executive Manager, Infrastructure and Development Services, and we have Emma Hannington, our Council Support Officer. We have no apologies this evening. We have no leaves of absence previously approved, and the number of people in the gallery at the commencement of the meeting is 7. Thank you very much for attending this evening. Questions from previous meetings. There was one from Darlene Barrett. I will read that out and provide the response. The question was, several meetings back, Councillor Smythe asked about overdue accounts fees. Since January, the amount has now been climbing to close to 800, two again in this agenda for the co-op. What is being done to stop these overdue accounts fees? And the response is, unfortunately, late fees cannot always be avoided. The Shire has comprehensive processes in place to minimise this occurring, with a recent review of processes completed in early 25-26. Officers continually implement process improvements and share learnings. Every year, the Shire provides refresher training for all staff, which includes a procurement component where officers are reminded of policies and procedures. Suppliers are requested to send all invoices through to the Shire's dedicated accounts email address. This is regularly monitored and is one of the key measures in the Shire currently uses to ensure invoices are paid in a timely manner. There was a second question. We rent a building and don't know for what under building hire. I think that means the Shire rents a building. $946 or $964 a month since January. The person hasn't gone back past January 26. Why wouldn't we buy the building instead of renting, as at this point a yearly payment close to $12,000 a year? And the response is this is for the hire of the Projects and Assets Team transportable office building located at the Shire Depot, principally as a site office for the Light Industrial Area project. This provides a practical location for the team and proximity to the project area. The hire fees are part of the Shire's co-contribution for the grant funding associated with the LIA project. When the hire agreement ends, the Shire will need to consider more permanent arrangements for staff office space at the depot. And the third question was cost to ratepayers for staff turnover. The costs are uniforms, induction costs, medicals and advertising. Staff turnover since Jack Nunn left is 21 persons. That's 31% of the Shire's staff, considering 10 to 15% is considered high. What is going to be done about the costs of this with the Shire? The response is the Shire of York's turnover rate for the period up to June 2025 was 26.7. While this may appear high, in general this is just below the state median for WA local governments. Local governments, including the Shire of York, are facing a combination of market pressures to attract and retain staff. Councils are competing more directly with the private sector and other levels of government, often with less competitive remuneration and benefits. York faces additional challenges in relation to housing availability and the current cost of living. The Shire uses a variety of recruitment and retention strategies, including, but not limited to, targeted promotion of vacant roles through professional bodies, improving competitiveness through non-financial benefits such as flexible work arrangements, investing in training and providing role-specific development programs, mentorship opportunities, improvements to the onboarding and induction programs for new employees, and encouraging and supporting internal promotion and development. We'll move forward. Response to unasked questions from the previous meeting is nil, which brings us to public question time. And we've got people in the gallery, so I will read all of this out this evening. So the procedures for question time. A member of the public who wishes to ask a question during question time must identify themselves and register with a council officer immediately prior to the meeting. A question may be taken on notice by the council for a response later on. When a question is taken on notice, the CEO is to ensure that a response is given to the member of the public in writing and a summary of the response is included in the agenda of the next meeting of the council. Where a question relating to a matter in which a relevant person has an interest is directed to the relevant person is to declare that he or she has an interest in the matter and allow another person to respond to the question. Each member of the public with a question is entitled to ask up to 2 questions before other members of the public will be invited to ask their questions. Where a member of the public provides written questions, then the presiding member may elect for the questions to be responded to as normal business correspondence. The presiding member may decide that a public question shall not be responded to where A, the same or similar question was asked at a previous meeting, a response was provided and the member of the public is directed to the minutes of the meeting at which the response was provided. B, the member of the public uses public question time to make a statement, provided that the presiding member has taken all reasonable steps to assist the member of the public to phrase the statement as a question. Or C, the member of the public asks a question that is offensive or defamatory in nature, provided that the presiding member has taken all reasonable steps to assist the member of the public to phrase the question in a manner that is not offensive or defamatory. A member of the public shall have 2 minutes to submit a question. The council by resolution may agree to extend public question time, Where any questions remain unasked at the end of public question time, they may be submitted to the CEO, who will reply in writing and include the questions and answers in the agenda for the next ordinary council meeting. Where an answer to a question is given at a meeting, a summary of the question and the answer is to be included in the minutes, and I will open public question time at 5:10 p.m. So what we do first, everyone, is if we've received any written questions on the current agenda, which we haven't, so I will move forward. So what I usually ask for is anyone from the floor who has questions on items that are on tonight's agenda. By show of hands. There are none. So now I will move to if anyone has questions that are not related to the agenda by show of hands. Mr. Wright, looks like you're up. Would you like to come up to the podium, please? State your name and ask your first question.
Hello, my name's Peter Wright, and my question could have been on the agenda tonight. And the question is, did any councillor declare any conflict of interest during the process of selecting the current CEO?
Thanks for the question. There's a general interest that everyone signs in the CEO recruitment process because of proximity. So it's actually covered in consultation with the HR consultant, both by people who are going to be part of SCMs related to the decision and councillors that are part of the actual panel as well. It's covered in a blanket declaration.
Yep.
I will check with the CEO to see if there's anything they would like to add in terms of procedure.
Thank you, through the chair. I was not part of the process whatsoever, okay. So I cannot add.
Yeah. So, yeah, look, it's basically a blanket proximity interest, if you will, because, yes, of course, we had a situation where the applicant was known to all of us. Yep. Yes, it is covered. Thanks, Mr. Wright. Do you have a second question? Because it doesn't look like anyone else has got any.
The second question was, you've answered the second question also.
Okay.
Because it was about, if they said yes, there was an individual, then I'll say why. What was that
Understood.
Conflict?
Okay,
and
so
you've
we've
covered it over there.
We've covered that.
Thanks,
Mr. Wright. Are there any further questions from the gallery? There are none, so I will close public question time at 5:12 p.m. and thank you for your interest and enthusiasm, Mr. Wright. Applications for leave of absence, there are none. We do have a presentation though. Okay, so there are no petitions this evening. We've got a presentation to the York Police to receive the Australia Day funding from 2025 for the Blue Light Unit, and I think we've got something to actually hand out for that, so I will go and do that now. Moving right along, people, deputations, we don't have any this evening. On to the delegates' reports, and you can see on your screen there, Councillor Denise Smythe, the Deputy Shire President, has advised the following meetings and events attended during May. We'll move on to number 7, confirmations of minutes of previous meetings. There's a recommendation that the minutes of the OCM held on the 26th of May be confirmed as a correct record of proceedings. May I have a mover for that? Councillor Welsh.
Thanks, through the chair. I move.
Councillor Smythe, you are seconding.
Councillor Smythe seconds.
Is anyone against the recommendation? Having a look on screen, there is no one. Let's take a vote on that, please. Councillor Trent, did you have your hand up? Yep, apologies. Thank you. That's carried 7-0. Thanks. Okay, let's move on to Section 8, and that's just some of the things that I attended throughout May 2026, just as we move up the screen there. And that's those things there. Okay, let's move forward to the officers' reports. Okay, so here we are, everyone. These are the things that Council needs to vote on this evening. So, item SY 046-06/26 is a request to vary the multi-year funding agreement from York Motoring Events Incorporated. Now, I'll just let everyone in the gallery know that Council has the opportunity to ask questions on the agenda, both at the agenda briefing last week and then via email all the way through and including right up to the OCM. So sometimes the questions have been satisfied before we get to the OCM, okay? But nevertheless, I will ask whether there are any questions or points of clarification, and it looks like... Oh, thank you, Councillor. You need to declare an interest. Use your microphone, please, Councillor Trent. Thanks, Councillor Ward.
Request to vary the multi-year funding agreement of the York Motoring event, the item being SY 046 of 0626. I disclose I have a financial interest in this matter. The association is I'm a member of the York Motoring Events Inc. and the York branch of the Veterans and Classic Car Club, both involved in this item. As a consequence, I'll leave the meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Trent. If you could forward your paperwork for that. And I can confirm for the recording that Councillor Trent has left the meeting at 5:17 p.m. Council, are there any points of clarification or questions on the recommendation which is in front of you there on your screens? I'm going to look at the screen. No? In that case, may I have a mover, please, for this item? Councillor Smythe moves. May I have a seconder, please? Oh, thank you, Councillor Walsh. If you could just... Yep, go again, Councillor.
Councillor Smythe moves.
Okay, and a seconder, please. Councillor Ashford.
Councillor Ashford seconds.
Is anyone against the recommendation? Having a look on screen as well. In that case, let's take a vote. And that is carried 6-0. Thank you, Council. Thanks, Thomas. If we could get Councillor Trent back into the room. And confirming that Councillor Trent is back in the meeting at 5:18 p.m. And just so for the benefit of the gallery, you might notice that things are moving a little bit slow. We've changed the way some of this works, so there will be a slight delay between items, okay? But we'll get to everything as soon as possible. Okay. SY 047-06/26 is the Acting Chief Executive Officer arrangements, and I know we have interests here, so let's do those first. Annika, would you like to read yours, please?
Thank you, through the Chair. With regard to Acting Chief Executive Officer arrangements, the matter in item SY 047-06/26, I disclose that I have a financial interest in this matter. The association is... I am the proposed officer. As a consequence, I will leave the meeting. Thanks
very much. If you could forward your paperwork. And we also have one from the CEO. No, we don't. Are there any other ones on this? Oh, there are. Okay, and I can confirm that Annika has left the room at 5:19 p.m. Let's have a look at the recommendation. Council, are there any questions or points of clarification on this? There are none. May I have a mover for the item?
Councillor Trent moves.
Councillor Trent moves. May I have a seconder, please?
Councillor Smythe seconds.
Councillor Smythe seconds. Is anyone against the item? There is no one. In that case, let's take a vote, please. And that is carried 7-0. Thank you, Council. If we could get Annika back in the room, please. Annika Burleson is back in the meeting at 5:20 p.m. Let's move forward. Just while we're waiting, you might have noticed that our flags are missing from behind me here. That's because the base of the flags became damaged, and the York Men's Shed kindly volunteered to replace the base for us. I'm told that the base is in fact finished, and as soon as it's dry, we'll get our flags back up behind us here in Council Chambers. Thank you, Councillor. Item SY 048-06/26 is the monthly financial report for the period ending 31st of May 2026. There's a recommendation here. Let's have a look at it. Okay, so Council, are there any points of clarification or questions on this item? There are none. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Trent moves.
Councillor Trent moves. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Welsh.
Councillor Welsh, second.
Is anyone against the item? Let's take a vote, please. And that's carried 7-0. Thank you, Council. And we'll move forward to the next item. Item SY 049-06/26 is the list of payments made from the municipal and trust funds for the period 1 to 31 of May 2026. Let's have a look at the recommendation. It's on your screen, Council. Are there any further points of clarification or questions? Thank you, Councillor Smythe.
I have a question. I know the answer, but I just want it so that it's recorded. On the list of payments on page 68, the EFT 36079, a payment to Officeworks, it says iPhone 15, 128G by 2, and the full charge was $6,589.95. Can I have clarification on what that was for, please?
Thank you, Councillor Smythe, and I will pass that across to the CEO for a response.
And thank you through the Chair. I'll pass that on to the acting EMCCS.
Thank you through the Chair. The purchase was for 6 iPhones. The purchase order and invoice was split into 2 lines, one for black and one for blue, due to stock availability. The ×2 reference on the payment listing refers to the line items, not the quantity of the product. The description should have been ×6.
Thank you, Councillor. CEO would like to provide context there.
So just to add, so we are noticing a pattern of items that are being incorrectly named. So what we are going to do is do some work with the admin team and associated people who do raise the purchase orders, just set some standards for what that needs to look like, just so they're reporting through with a little more clarity, and that should give councillors more, oversight of what's actually happening.
Thanks very much, CEO. Okay, are there any further questions on this item? Councillor Trent? No? Do I have a mover in that case?
Move, Councillor Trent.
Councillor Trent moves. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Welsh?
Move, Councillor Welsh.
Is anyone speaking against the item? Let's take a vote, please. And that's carried 7-0. Thank you, Council. We'll move to our next item in just a moment. And here we go. Item SY 050-06/26 is the list of accounts paid using transaction cards for the period 1st to the 31st of May 2026. Let's have a look at the recommendation. Councillors, questions or points of clarification? There are none. May I have a mover for this item? Councillor
Trent.
Councillor Trent moves. Councillor Smythe.
Councillor Smythe, second.
Is anyone speaking against the recommendation? Let's take a vote, please. And that is carried 7-0. Thank you, Council. And we'll move to our next item momentarily. Item SY051-06/26 is the completion of the recruitment process for the appointment of the Chief Executive Officer, and we have interests. Madam CEO, would you like to read yours out first, please?
Thank you. Yes, with regard to item completion of recruitment process for appointment of the Chief Executive Officer, the matter in item SY051-06/26, I disclose that I have a financial interest in this matter. The association is that I am the applicant appointed as the Chief Executive Officer, and as a result of this consequence, I will leave the meeting.
Thank you. If you could forward your paperwork there and leave the meeting. Are there other interests on this one? Okay, we don't allow questions at this point of the meeting, but point taken. We're outside of the gallery being able to interact. But point taken, but unfortunately it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other. We've got to make sure that the council can see what they need to see, and that might not always match what the gallery sees. Okay? Okay, so that's the item. Let's have a look at the recommendation. And there it is. Council, are there questions or points of clarification on this item? There are none. May I have a mover, please?
Move, Councillor Trent.
Councillor Trent moves. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Ashford.
Councillor Ashford seconds.
Thank you very much. Is anyone speaking against this item? Let's take a vote, please. And that's carried 7-0. Thank you, Council. And if we could get the CEO back into the meeting, please. And the CEO has re-entered the meeting at 5:28 p.m. That takes us to investments. Item SY052-06/26. Investments for May 2026. Let's take it down and have a look at the recommendation. That's the recommendation. Council, are there any points of clarification or questions on this one? Okay. May I have a mover, please?
Councillor Trent moves.
Councillor Trent moves. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Welsh.
Councillor Welsh seconds.
Is anyone speaking against the item? Okay, let's take a vote, please. And that's carried 7-0. Thank you, Council. We'll move to our next item. Okay, item SY053-06/26 is reserve transfers. Let's have a look at this recommendation. And there's been some questions through on this that have been dealt with. Emma, would you mind just trying to play with that a bit so we can try and get the whole recommendation on screen? Thank you. Is that still readable down in the gallery there? We've had to make it smaller, but now you can see the whole recommendation on one screen. Okay. Council, questions or points of clarification on this item? Checking the screens as well. No. May I have a mover, please?
Councillor Trent moves.
Councillor Trent moves. May I have a seconder, please? Councillor Welsh seconds. Is anyone speaking against this?
Councillor Welsh seconds.
Thank you. Is anyone speaking against this item? Let's take a vote, please. And that's carried 7-0. Thank you, Council. We'll move to our next item. Gallery, you might have noticed that there's a few extra items there compared to usual. That's because some of those used to be bulked into one item. So it's the new recommended best practice is to separate those into different items, and that's why it's taking a little bit longer, and they now show up as separate items rather than one large item. Okay? Let's move to our next item. Right, now we need to... Okay, so sorry, let's roll that back, Emma. Sorry, Section 10, motions of which previous notice have been given. We don't have any. And question from members without notice. Do we have any? Checking the screen as well. We do not. Let's move to 12 then. So business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. There's some late reports that have come after the original agenda, and I believe we have to move to accept those reports first.
Councillor Trent.
Councillor Trent would like to move that we accept the late items. Do I have a seconder for that? And I do have a seconder from Councillor Ashford.
Councillor Ashford seconds.
Thank you very much. Is anyone against bringing these items in? No? Let's take a vote to accept the items into the agenda. And that's carried 7-0. So we'll have a look at these. So the first one is SY 054-06/26, and it's community funding applications. Let's have a look at the recommendation for that. Okay, let's just wait for that to load and we'll move it up. Just wait a second. So the recommendation is there, Council. Are there any points of clarification or questions? Maybe ask that now, Councillor Sly.
Because we had a mix-up with the numbers, I just want to confirm that the confidential items numbers have been changed as well. Yep, thank you.
Okay. So back to this item. Any points of clarification or questions on this recommendation, please? Checking the screens as well. Okay. Do I have a mover for this item?
Councillor Trent moves.
Councillor Trent's moving. Do I have a seconder for the item? Councillor Gibbs will second. Does anyone like to speak against the item?
Thanks, through the chair. I'd like to speak against the item.
Just wait for a second, Councillor Wells. So Councillor Wells, she'll be speaking against. May I check with you? I believe that you have an amendment to propose.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we'll stick within the order of events though. So because that puts us into debate, Councillor Trent, you have the opportunity, if you wish, to speak for the original item.
Yes, Mr. President. When this was presented to us originally, everyone seemed happy. I know that for some the West Cycle event is a bit larger than previously, but when you consider just how many people that attracts into York, it's they certainly justify the amount of money which they are being allocated to promote and hold the event. It's very popular amongst cyclists. I was involved last year. Admittedly, I didn't complete the whole course, but I was assisting them in what they were trying to do, to encourage people to get back on their bikes, and in the times of fuel shortages, it's certainly a wise way to go. That's my debate.
Thank you very much, Councillor Trent. I was the seconder for this. My main reason for seconding, of course, is that due to the time and the nature of this item, we've actually got a few things going on at the same time there. I didn't want anything to be jeopardised by not getting the item onto the table. I have nothing further to add from Councillor Trent, which means it takes us through to Councillor Welsh.
Thank you, through the Chair. I'm speaking against this recommendation, on the basis that in 2025 we funded the applicant to a total of $5,000, and in 2026, this year, the economic environment that we operate in is quite challenging for the Shire, and we need to be more considered in funding these types of events. I'm very aware that they bring a lot of economic benefit, but we also need to treat all applicants similarly. So I'm recommending that we only fund West Cycle to the value of $5,000 and not the $10,000 that was requested from them.
We'll deal with that now, Councillor Welsh. So can you please confirm that on the screen there, the proposed amendment is what you would like Council to consider?
Yes, I confirm. Would you like me to read it out?
Yes, please, if you would read that out.
So the proposed amendment is that with regard to community funding applications, Council, 1, rejects the community funding request from Curate Arts Incorporated, 2, approves the following community funding requests as presented in confidence in the table, totalling $12,466 to be funded from the budget allocations. The table reads as York Hockey Club, $2,000, West Cycle, $5,000, York District Archery Club Incorporated, $466. 2, directs the Chief Executive Officer to include the above agreed amounts in the 26-27 budgeting process.
Thanks very much, Councillor Welsh. Do you have anything else to add?
No, thanks, Chris.
Okay, so what we're doing now, Council, is dealing with the amendment itself to see if it will get up. So the first thing that Councillor Welsh would require is a seconder for her proposed amendment, and it looks like I have one.
Councillor Smythe seconds.
Councillor Smythe is seconding that. Is anyone speaking against the proposed amendment? Councillor Trent, you will speak against. So now we're heading to debate on the amendment itself. Right? Just by show of hands, is anyone else planning to speak for the amendment? Councillor Ashford? And is anyone else, looks like Councillor Hutchinson has her hand up as well. Is anyone else planning on speaking against Councillor Welsh's amendment? Okay. So Councillor Welsh, we're in debate. If you have anything else to add, you're up first. Okay, so secondly would be Councillor Smythe, if you have anything to add to the support for the amendment itself.
I agree with what Councillor Welsh said, that in our economic terms now we've got to be very, very careful with what we're supporting, and they run that event last year very successfully with $5,000. The prior 2 years before that, they got $9,000 each year, and I think $5,000, they obviously run it with $5,000, and I think that they can continue to.
Okay. Councillor Trent, you'd be next to speak against the amendment, if you wish.
Yes. We're looking at value for money here. The West Cycle group bring hundreds of people into York, and those hundreds of people certainly spend a lot of money when they come through, because they come through at either stay here overnight or head from Perth up here. They eat and drink and then go for their cycle and then come back and do the same thing again. I believe that in terms of the type of event this is and the other major events that the council sponsors and assists, this is value for money if it stays at $10,000.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, I believe Councillor Hutchinson and Councillor Ashford were speaking for. Councillor Hutchinson, would you like to speak first, please?
Sure. Also, there might have been something wrong with Councillor Smythe's microphone, because I could see Councillor Pike was also struggling to hear.
Thank
so
you.
It wasn't coming through clearly, so we couldn't hear what she was saying.
Thank you.
However, I think this is a good benchmark. Last month we declared the same for the Weebell Arts. This is also a ticketed event. I can see that this definitely has, as Councillor Trent's mentioned, it brings a lot of people to town. It's been going for a long time. It's definitely for the benefit and well-being of the community and others. However, we do need to consider that we have set a decision, and it needs to be fair across all. Plus, including at our last meeting and workshop, we decided to decrease the amount that we are funding because of the actual times. I also noticed, if I'm not mistaken, that this was approved some time ago because it included an admin who's no longer with the Shire. So it may not have been reflective of what of course it was only within the last week or two when we made a decision to actually decrease how much we'll be funding so that we remove the stress on ratepayers and Shire funds.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchinson. Just before we move to Councillor Ashford, who I believe wants to speak for the amendment, is anyone else interested in speaking against the amendment? Okay, Councillor Ashford, you're up.
Just quickly, while it is an established York event and very, very successful, and I love it personally, I do think that in today's climate we really need to trim it down a little bit. And although $5,000 doesn't seem like enough, I do feel that it still represents a support from the council and that we are encouraging the event to go ahead. But given the economic climate that we all are in, including the event, I support it.
Thank you, Councillor Ashford. As no one else has put up an intent to speak against, I will go to Councillor Welsh to close the debate, as you were the mover.
Thank you, through the Chair. I think this is the right decision from Council to reduce the funding to West Cycle. They've indicated that they can still go ahead with the event regardless if we fund them or not. So I'm comfortable that we should move to reduce the funding as the amendment says.
Thanks, Councillor Welsh. That concludes the debate. The CEO has requested to clarify a couple of items before we move forward to voting on the amendment.
Thank you. Just for absolute transparency for the audience and council members, so the proposed amendment was originally written with the point 2 approves the following community funding requests totalling $12,466. So that's been reduced to $7,466, just as we were speaking about it, just to reflect Councillor Welsh's intended amounts per item. So just letting you know that's happened in case you get any questions later.
Okay, thank you. So what's happening now, everyone, is everyone's had their debate on the proposed amendment. So what we're going to do now is we're voting on the amendment itself and whether it becomes part of the official recommendation. So let's take our vote. Who is for Councillor Welsh's proposed amendment? And against, please. The amendment is carried 6-1 and will become part of the official recommendation, which we'll have a look at now. So just while we're doing that, it becomes substantive now. Okay. So what we can see on the screen there, the proposed amendment is now going to become the substantive motion. So just while we're wrangling with that a little bit, because this involves a couple of different funding things, Emma, is the way to do that moving it across so that I can still read at the same time? Thanks so much. So just so the gallery can see what's going on there, there's actually 4 different applications in one item because it's a late item and we wanted to sort of bring this to the table this evening rather than waiting another month. So what you've got there is York Hockey Club, West Cycle, York District and Archery Club, and then you've also got a funding request from Curate Arts. Council has considered all of those applications, and by way of the proposed amendment, which is now substantive, that's what we're looking at voting on now. So that Council knows that as well, you're voting on 4 things here, okay? 4 different applicants. So let's have a look at it. Now, we already have the item on the table. Okay, so we can go straight to the vote. Yeah.
President, if I could move the recommendation.
It's already been moved, but thanks, Councillor Trent. You and I have already moved the original recommendation, so we're okay there? Yeah. So we don't need to remove it. All we need to do now is vote on this recommendation. So, for... And that's carried 7-0. Thank you for your patience, Gallery, and thank you for your good work on that, Council. We'll get all of that in there and then we'll look at the next item. Okay, so item SY055-06/26 is a review of the delegations register. Let's have a look at this recommendation. There's been quite a few questions on this one for the benefit of the gallery that have come through via email over the last few days. There's a recommendation there, Council. May I please have any questions or points of clarification on this one? Nothing to add by the looks. May I have a mover?
Councillor Trent moves.
Councillor Trent's moving it. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Smythe seconds.
Councillor Smythe seconds. Can I get a sound check from my two digital councillors? Are you hearing Councillor Smythe?
Yeah, that was a lot better.
Okay, thank you very much. Is anyone... Sorry, I'll just hold there for a second. It looks like we may have a typo, people. Let's have a look. Okay. Just making a change to those dates there so that it makes sense, everyone. Looks like Annika...
So it was conducted. So the last review was conducted in June 2025 for the 2024-25 financial year. Was the last review.
Can I confirm from administration that that's now correct? Okay, so I think the safest thing to do would be to move it as amended. So we need to move it as amended because of those date changes there. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Smythe.
Councillor Smythe moves with the amendment.
Okay, do I have it?
25.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Trent seconds. Is anyone against that? Let's take a vote, please. And that's carried 7-0. Thanks for your patience, everyone there. We'll have a look at the next item. Okay, just about there, everyone. Item SY056-06/26 is the minutes and recommendations of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting held on the 9th of June 2026. There's a recommendation there. Let's try and fit it on screen. Doesn't look like we will be able to. Well, there we go. That's a bit better. Council, are there any points of clarification or questions? There are none, so I'll ask for a mover, please.
Move, Councillor Trent.
Councillor Trent moves. Councillor Welsh?
Councillor Welsh, second.
Would anyone like to speak against the recommendation? No one? Let's take a vote, please. And that is carried 7-0. Thank you, Council. And the Audit and Risk Improvement Committee will feature again later on in this actual OCM. We'll move to the next item. Item SY057-06/26 is a budget amendment for an electrical network upgrade for EV charging infrastructure. There were some questions through on this one as well throughout the week. Let's have a look at the recommendation. There it is. Council, are there further points of clarification or questions on this item? Councillor Trent, you've got something.
Yes, I'm just wondering when we'll be able to invite people down to charge their electrical vehicles from this facility.
That's a very good question, and I will need to hand that across to the CEO for a response.
And thank you. I'll pass that on to our EMIDS for an expected timeline.
Thank you. Through the Chair, hopefully by the end of next financial year.
Thank you, Thomas. Any further questions or points of clarification from Council? Okay, the recommendation is there. Do I have a mover?
Councillor Trent moves.
Councillor Trent is moving. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Ashford.
Councillor Ashford seconds.
Is anyone speaking against the recommendation? No. Let's take a vote, please. And that's carried 7-0. Thank you very much. We'll move to the next item. No problem. Okay, we've got confidential items, everyone. Can we just move to the top of that, please, Emma? So I do need to close the meeting to the public. Those of you that regularly come to meetings will know that you are welcome to come back and hear the resolutions read out afterwards, but you don't need to. It's entirely up to you. But I would like to move that we close the meeting to the public for these items. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded, Councillor Trent.
Is anyone against closing the meeting? Let's take a vote, please. And that is carried 7-0. Thank you very much for your attendance, everyone. And the meeting is closed to the public. Thanks very much, everyone, for your attendance. The meeting is closed to the public at 5:54 p.m. So I need to move to open the meeting to the public at 6:14 p.m.
Councillor Trent.
It's seconded by Councillor Trent. Does anyone want to speak against that idea? No? Let's vote to open the meeting, please, Council. Thank you. That's carried 7-0. Thomas, would you mind opening the door, please? And I think I've got a lot of reading to do. Yeah, it's not that much. It'll Just remember, everyone, we're still in the meeting. Let's just hold for a moment, please. Okay, so I need to read those resolutions so that they're made public, if only for the recording, so I'll do that now. If I could have something on the screen that I'm supposed to read. Okay, no worries. Just bear with me for a second, everyone. I'll get us through this as quick as possible. Yeah. Okay, let's go for it. So, in item SY058-06/26, confidential review of rates exemption, -A12191. The resolution was moved by Councillor Kevin Trent, was seconded by Councillor Denise Smythe, and that with regards to the review of rates exemption, Council resolves to grant the rates exemption in accordance with section 6.262G of the Local Government Act 1995, with the exemption being applicable from the 1st of July 26. 2. Notes the emergency services levy and other applicable charges such as rubbish collection are payable by the applicant. And 3. Requests the Chief Executive Officer to review the exemption every 3 years, with the next review occurring prior to the 1st of July 2029. In favour was all of Council, and against was Councillor Elaine Ashford. It was carried 6-1. Item SY059-06/26 is confidential, and it's the review of rates exemption A5845. It was moved by Councillor Kevin Trent and seconded by Councillor Melissa Welsh. With regards to the review of rates exemption A5845, Council 1 resolves to grant a rates exemption for A5845 in accordance with section 6.262G of the Local Government Act 1995, with the exemption being applicable from the 1st of July 2026. 2. Notes that the emergency services levy, ESL, and any other applicable charges such as rubbish collection are payable by the applicant. And 3. Requests the Chief Executive Officer to review the exemption every 3 years, with the next review occurring prior to 1st of July 2029. In favour was unanimous. That was carried 7-0. SY060-06/26 is confidential. It was a proposed change to service model development services. It was moved by Councillor Kevin Trent and seconded by Councillor Melissa Welsh. That with regard to the proposed change to service model development services by the Shire of York, Council 1 notes the Memorandum of Understanding with the City of Kalamunda as presented at Appendix 1. 2. Authorises the CEO to complete negotiations for the Memorandum of Understanding for a 2-year period commencing 1st of July 2026. 3. Authorises the CEO to make any minor typographical and formatting changes to the Memorandum of Understanding prior to signing. 4. Directs the CEO to report back to Council in 6 monthly intervals on the delivery of the outsourced development services model commencing December 2026. 5. Directs the CEO to include the revised service model into the 27 and 2027-28 budgets. It was in favour and carried 7-0 by absolute majority. Item SY061-06/26 is confidential. It's the requirement to appoint an independent deputy of the presiding member for Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. It was moved by Councillor Kevin Trent and seconded by Councillor Melissa Welsh. That with regard to the requirement to appoint an independent deputy of the presiding member for Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee, Council 1 receives this report noting the legislative obligation to appoint a deputy of the presiding member of the ARIC under Section 7.1b of the Local Government Act 1995. 2. Appoints Philip Andrew Draber as Deputy of the Presiding Member of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee pursuant to Sections 5.11a and 7.1b of the Local Government Act 1995 by absolute majority. 3. Requests the Executive Officer to undertake the necessary steps to formalise the appointment of the Deputy of the Presiding Member of the ARIC before 30th of June 2026. 4. Directs the Chief Executive Officer to notify unsuccessful applicants of the outcome. And in favour was the entirety of Council. It was carried 7-0 by absolute majority. And with that, everyone, I thank you for your patience. A lot of ground to cover there with a lot of different things to wrangle. You've all done exceptionally well, and I will close this OCM at 6:20 p.m.